Hello everybody, welcome to ePathshala. I am Pulak Sengupta from Department of Geological Sciences, Jadavpur University. Today I will be discussing mineralogical phase rule in closed and open system. Mineralogical phase rule is not a standalone topic. If you want to understand this, we need to understand phase rule first. That is why I will take up the phase rule part first and then I will move on to mineralogical phase rule. I shall begin with a brief introduction. This will be followed by explanation of some terms that will come when I will be explaining phase rule and mineralogical phase rule. Then I will show how the phase rule is deduced in open and closed system. Then I will move on to the mineralogical phase rule in open and closed system. Okay. So, in this talk I will cover only the first two items, that is introduction and some basic definitions. Before I go to phase rule, I need to explain certain terms because this term will be coming quite often during the derivation and application of phase rule. I begin with this term equilibrium. Equilibrium is a state at which all the physical and chemical processes come to a halt. Appear to come to a halt, I should say. Why I am saying this? Because things are not static at this condition. You must be knowing from your high secondary chemistry courses, this is the state at which rate of the reaction is maximum. Then why we do not see something happening? The reason is simple. The rate of the forward reaction is equal to the rate of the backward reaction. That is the reason why nothing is happening, at least appear to not happening. The next term which I like to introduce is system. System is any part of the universe. It does not have any fixed size. Few grains of a rock can constitute a system. Two, the system can be as big as the solar system or even larger than that. It is just like suppose you are a rich person. You can purchase any stretch of land. Now, once you purchase your land, then you like to be cover it with a boundary. So, system is also like this. So, once you fix your system, you cannot change the size of the system, and the area which lies outside the system is called surrounding. So, suppose this is my stretch of land and this is called system. This is my system, and the entire area outside this are called surrounding. Now, my system can exchange heat with the surrounding, that is my system can be heated up, can be cooled down, but my system is not allowed to exchange any mass. No mass is allowed to move outside this domain or allowed to come inside this domain. This kind of system is known as, closed system. There is another type of system called open system. In this case, my system can exchange heat as well as the mass with the surrounding. That means, my system can get a mass from the surrounding or can release mass outside. So, heat will be changing, the system can be heated up or can be cooled down. The third type of system is called closed system. In this case, the system is not allowed to exchange mass or heat with the surrounding. That means, my system is completely insulated from the surrounding. I give you an example. In a thermoflask, when you put some tea and put the lid on very tightly, then for some time the tea inside will retain the temperature at which the tea was poured. So, this comes very close to the closed system. The way the tea was insulated from the surrounding, the isolated system is also insulated from the surrounding. Chemically speaking, a system can be homogeneous chemically. That means every point inside the system will have same composition. This type of system are called homogeneous system. To the contrary, most of the system in nature are heterogeneous. That is, every point, composition at every point of the system are different, and this type of system, as I mentioned, are called heterogeneous system. The rocks, the soils and other things that you see in nature are examples of heterogeneous system, because different part of the rocks have different compositions. Next term which I like to explain is phase. Phase is a part of a system. What kind of part? It has as fixed physical properties. It may or may not have distinguishing chemical property, but its physical property must distinguish it from the surrounding within this system. And then the phases are just like minerals in rock. If I consider rock as a system, then the minerals will be considered as the phases. We should be very careful in choosing the phases. Okay. For example, you have a glass of water. If we ignore the glass and we consider that water is my system, then the phase is 1, because there is only one material which has a distinct physical properties, that is the liquid water. Now, if I put a piece of ice which is floating on the water, then we have 2 phases, because ice has a physical property which is different from the water. Now, if I add some fluid, a color fluid which mixes with water very homogeneously, if I put that fluid into the water, our number of phases will be constant, because that fluid will mixes with the liquid and there will be treated as only one phase. I give you a geological example. You know that potash feldspar and albite can mix at high temperature to form alkali feldspar. So long they are immiscible, there is only one phase. Once they cool down and the alkali feldspar is splitted into 2, and the texture you all know is called perthite with potash feldspar host and plagioclase lamellae, composition being the same, now we have 2 phases. So, we should be very careful in identifying the number of phases. I give you one more example, atmosphere. Atmosphere is a mixture of so many things, but from the viewpoint of phase rule, it has only one phase, because you cannot distinguish oxygen from carbon dioxide looking at the air. They do not have any rigid boundary which we can identify, and that is why this air is considered as one phase. Next term is system component. We have now a system. System consists of phases. Phases have compositions. Now, what is the number of system components? It is defined as number of chemical constituents, or I should say minimum number of chemical constituents that can define the composition of all the phases. Here I emphasize on 2 terms, minimum number and composition of all the phases. Okay. So, I give you an example. Suppose I take a rock called gabbro. It has clinopyroxene, which is expressed as, then we have olivine, then we have plagioclase, for the sake of discussion, I am using very simple composition, but in nature their composition are complex, it involves lot of elements. Now, these are my 3 phases. How many components will be there in the system? We have 3 options. Option number 1 are oxide. I write the oxide. Next option is elements. SiAlMgO. The third option is the compound, these three. Now, here the number of chemical constituents, in fact, all the three sets can explain the composition of all the phases. Now, which number we should treat as number of system component? Here, the component is designated as C, C equals to 3, here the component is 4 and here the component is 5. Though these three sets of composition can define the composition of all the phases, I should consider this number because this is minimum. So, where are we? We have system, system has phases, phases have components and these phases are in equilibrium. At this stage, several physical and chemical parameters are acting upon these phases. Magnitude of these parameters vary. That is why these parameters are called variables. On the basis of their mass dependence, the variables can be divided into two. One is intensive variables, in which the variables are not dependent on mass. It is not dependent on mass. Example are pressure, temperature, density of the substance. And other variables are called extensive variables. These variables are dependent on mass. I give you some example. This is heat, this is force, this is volume. So, we have intensive variables as well as extensive variable working or acting upon the phases during the time of equilibrium. For phase rule, we will be concentrating on the intensive variable. The next term I like to discuss is degrees of freedom. Sometimes this is also called variance of a system. The variance is designated as F. This is the symbol of variance which are used in most of the books and texts. What does it mean? The degrees of freedom means I now have a set of intensive variable. For the time being, I'm just keeping this part extensive variable silence. Now, I have a set of intensive variables acting upon a set of minerals which are in equilibrium and nothing is happening. Now, if the system has the liberty to change the magnitude of two variables, and if I change the magnitude of two variables, we see that nothing still are not happening. So, then 2 will be my degrees of freedom. That means, this is the number of intensive variables that can be varied without changing the phase relation or without disturbing the equilibrium in a system. I am left with two more terms which I will explain now. One term is called Gibbs free energy, this is abbreviated as G. Another one is called chemical potential. Gibbs free energy is named after its inventor of phase rule, that is J.W. Gibbs. This is a kind of energy that is related to the heat energy of this system. This heat energy is called enthalpy and temperature in degrees Kelvin. Remember that in thermodynamics, if nothing else is specified, always consider temperature is in Kelvin scale, and then times the entropy. This is a kind of energy that is related to the heat content of the system called enthalpy and entropy. Look at this equation. If you increase S, G will decrease. Some people also call it Gibbs function. In most of the cases this is Gibbs free energy, in some text it will be called Gibbs function. Then how come the term free comes into the definition? It has a historical connotation. In the age of steam engine, the engineers were more interested to convert heat to work. According to them, they defined G as the energy that can be freed to do work. They were sure that all the energy in this system cannot be converted to work. From this equation, you can also see if you have the heat content of H, the whole of heat cannot be converted to work, and that is the reason why a machine does not have 100% efficiency. Chemical potential, well, before going to the chemical potential, I must say, since this is a kind of thermal energy, this G, this is an extensive property, that is, it is dependent on the mass of the system. Now, chemical potential is very generally speaking is the Gibbs free energy per mole of substance. The moment I fix the mass, then the energy become mass independent, that is the energy per unit mass. Mathematically speaking, this is expressed as dG by dny equals to mu 1, provided that moles of 2, 3, 4 are held constant, pressure and temperature are held constant. Remember one thing, G of a system or a phase, wherever you use G, it has to be calculated at constant pressure and temperature. So, while G is an extensive parameter, mu is an intensive parameter. In phase rule, we will recall mu, not G. So, before showing you what is the form of phase rule in closed and open system, I quickly recapitulate what we have. We have system, we have phases, phases have components, and there are intensive and extensive parameters. Now, and there are degrees of freedom of the system. Now, the degrees of freedom can be related to phases and components in this form, where C is the number of components, P is the number of phases, and 2. Why 2? 2 stands for pressure and temperature. Okay, that is why it is 2. Now, in geological system, we have we may have two different types of pressure. One is fluid pressure, that is the fluid, the pressure exerted by the fluid, and the load pressure, that is the pressure exerted by the overburdened rock. Now, in most of the cases, we assume that these two fluids, two pressures are same, and that is why one stands for this equal value. The moment the fluid pressure and the load pressure are different, then the phase rule will take the form of C minus P plus 3, and in that case one is temperature, one is fluid pressure, and one is load pressure. And for the sake of simplicity, I will stick to these things. This is the form of phase rule for closed system, that is, my system cannot exchange any mass or exchange any mass with the surrounding, but it can exchange energy with that. Now, if the system is open, then the equation becomes little tricky. F becomes equals to C minus K minus P plus 2, where K stands for the number of mobile components. Suppose we have 10 components in this system, of which 2 can move out or can come in, then the value of this will be 10 minus 2, that will be 8. So, you can see that more components become mobile, the degrees of freedom becomes lower and lower, because this value is going down. So, these are the two equations which I will derive in the next lecture. Now, I will show you the application of this phase rule in geological system. Well, please have a look at this diagram. This is simple diapside anorthite phase diagram. This is two component system. with this thing, this phase relation. All of you know this thing by this time. Now I will explain this phase diagram with the help of phase rule. Okay. So, this diagram is prepared at constant pressure. So, first thing what we should do, we should write the phase rule in closed system for pressure constant. So, you can see that it will be F equals to C minus P plus 1. Why it is C minus P plus 1 instead of 2? Because I have fixed the pressure. Okay. Now, at this point, what is the number of phases? We have dioxide, we have anorthite, and we have liquid. So, number of phases will be 3. What is the number of components? Is always 2, because this is diopside anorthite system. So, what is the result of this thing? It is 0. What does it mean? If F is 0, that means the system does not have any degrees of freedom. So, if you change any of the intensive parameters, immediately something will happen, some phases will be converted to some other phases, and this situation is known as invariant point, and it is at this point, even if you change the heat, temperature will not change. That is what you are probably taught in your petrological classes, that till the last drop of liquid is exhausted, the 3 phases will be together and there will be no change of heat. And this is the situation, remember that. Heat is changing, but temperature is not, thermometer is not recording it, and that is the reason why in this domain the change of heat is known as change of latent heat. What is latent about this? This heat is not expressed in terms of temperature. Now, let me go to this point. Then what happens? Component is always 2, but the number of phases are 2, you have anorthite and you have liquid. So, I put it here. So, what is the result? The result is 1. That means I have 1 degree of freedom. That means I can change the temperature of the system, and that is the reason why if anorthite and liquid are present here, it can cool down. The temperature is going down, no problem. But the moment it comes here, immediately touches the invariant point and the temperature stops to change. Okay. So, this is the second case. The third case, if my situation is here, then what happens? 2 component system, now we have 1 phase. Then what is the result? The result is 2. That is, you can change the temperature as well as composition. Even if you change the composition or temperature, the number of phase will continue to be 1, and that will be liquid. That is how we explain the phase diagram in the form of phase rule. Remember one thing, that eutectic points are invariant points. Now, a system can have more than 1 eutectic points, or more than 1 invariant points. If that happens, you must have seen in the Fosterite coarse system that you have a peritectic point and a eutectic point. This system has 2 invariant points, but one has lower temperature than the other. If a system has more than 1 invariant point, then the invariant point which has lowest temperature are known as eutectic point, and all other invariant points are known as peritectic point. That is the relationship between the igneous terminologies and the phase rule. So, whenever you will be asked what is the definition of peritectic point, you always define peritectic point in terms of phase rule. Let me now give you one more example of application of phase rule in life other than geology. We all know that it is difficult to cook meat properly unless you use pressure cooker when we go to the top of the mountain. Why it is so? Before that, I have to tell you one thing. I am not a good cook, but whatever little cooking I know, I know the scenario that unless the temperature exceeds 95 degrees, actually the meat will not be properly prepared. Now, what happens if you go to the top of a mountain. Before that, let me tell you a little science. The boiling point, that is at which the water will start converting to a water vapor at high temperature. You know that at sea surface, it is 100 degrees Celsius. Now, this boiling point depends on pressure. It has a positive curve, that is, if you increase the pressure, the boiling point will be higher. That is precisely the principle of pressure cooker. What pressure cooker does, it increases the pressure inside and makes the water to boil at higher temperature. Now, if we go up to the mountain, then what happens? The pressure is low. Obviously, the boiling point will be lower. If it is 100 degrees Celsius at ocean plain, and then it will be around 85 to 90 degree depending on which height you have reached, and if the boiling temperature is 90 degree, that is an invariant point. Why it is so? Because pressure there is constant, component is 1. So, F equals to component is 1, and how many phases you have? You have 2 and then 1 because pressure is constant. And then what is the value of F? Is 0. That is, you cannot change the temperature at this point. Whatever heat you apply, the water will boil only at 90 degrees centigrade, and that is the reason why you cannot cook properly the meat, and you have to carry pressure cooker there, and inside the pressure cooker the steam actually increases the pressure and allow the temperature to reach 110 degrees, and we can prepare all the delicious food involving meat. Now, let me give you one more example of application of phase rule in geology. We know during metamorphism, when the temperature of metamorphism reaches to a point, then the rock starts melting. Now, why the temperature of metamorphism is increased? Because the heat is supplied to the rock. Now, so long melt is not produced, if you increase the heat, then the rock, temperature of the rock will be increased. Now, the moment the melt will start, then an interesting thing will happen. Now, this is the change of state. The rock will be converted to the melt. At this point, whatever energy you give, only the big amount of melts will be produced, but the temperature of the rock will remain at the melting temperature. And that is the reason why when the rock melts, and if the melts are not segregated from the rock from which it was generated, they act as a thermal buffer. That means it will not allow the ambient temperature to cross the melting temperature. Now, what happens? If the melt is kicked out, then the system immediately changes its composition. The moment it changes its composition, its melting temperature is also changed. Usually, if you kick out the granitic melt from a rock, then the remaining rock will have a higher melting temperature, and now if we increase the temperature will increase, and again the rock will generate melt, but the temperature of melt will be higher than the temperature of melt which was produced in the earlier phases. That is how a metamorphic rock can reach to a temperature exceeding 1000 degrees centigrade. And this type of metamorphic rocks are known as ultra high temperature metamorphism. Why the rock could reach to this temperature? Here, as I have explained through my talk, that heat is not the issue. The issue is whether the phase rule will allow the rock to raise its temperature. So, this is how the ultra high temperature metamorphism occurs, and that is the reason why whenever you see migmatite means a rock with trapped liquid. So long the migmatite will not purge out its liquid, the temperature of migmatite will stay at the temperature the melt was started to form.